Black cisgender heterosexual identified men are killing Black trans women. Black ones.
We are not talking about it in the church.
Those street guys are already engineers. If they're mixing drugs and stuff together, they're chemical engineers.
If you're just like, yeah, let's kill 50 cops just because, you know, that's only a fraction of the Black people that they killed. Wait, now you're talking about my wife.
For those of you who are joining in, we are talking about just the housing in the Black community and owning property, why it's important, and how to get yourself in there.
When I think of financial literacy, I just don't think of the classroom work. I think some of it is practical application.
I'm scared, especially, you know, calling them to arms, talking about poll workers or poll watchers. That is rooted in history of voter suppression and intimidation.
Joe Biden needs to make that a part of his educational platform.
Call that shit out.
I don't see much value in you speaking in tongues, and yet when you speak in English, you don't say nothing for my people.
Many of the reasons why we're dying is because of the conditions we live under that cause our health to be so bad, and that cause it's the food, it's the water, it's clean that shit up first.
When their fathers have prostate cancer, I had like a 150% chance of getting cancer, being diagnosed with cancer. I had a friend that did a raw vegan diet, 20 years remission, had thyroid cancer, never had surgery. I'm like, that's what I'm doing.
This week in Black People Shit, Election 2020 Part 2, aka I'm glad this shit is over. I'm your host, Chrystee Pharris. After days of speculation, we finally have a presumptive presidential election winner. And now that President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris have given their victory speeches, we have to take time to acknowledge some of this election's historical moments. From the largest voter turnout in history to the first woman and person of color to become the vice president, election 2020 has given some of our highest highs and our lowest lows. With me as always to discuss these issues and many more is actress Janora McDuffie and writer Abdul Majid. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and share this week's episode. And if you'd like to join in the conversation, just click in the link in the chat because we love to hear from you. Hey,
Happy Wednesday, everybody.
Team, I know, Cashmere Love.
Cashmere Love.
You know what? It was a dare from my co-host Abdul last week to change my name to Cashmere Love because that's all I was spitting with some love. So I showed up. Cashmere, by the way, for those who don't know, I am a proud member, if you haven't even felt it already, after all this time we spent together, of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and Cashmere was my line name. And Abdul, because of that dare, you are also allowing me to make a plug for my business that I have with my wife, Cashmere and Gold. We do all kind of entertainment events now that it's COVID chapter. We do virtual parties now, and even have a Duffy boat docked in the Long Beach shore. So if you want to get out before COVID hits again, holla. Thank you, Abdul. And hey, everybody.
The only thing I'm upset about is that you didn't come on banging pots and pans like you did for Biden and Kamala. You didn't do that for us. I don't know why.
Hey, I'm excited. If you won president and vice president of the United States of America, then I might have a pot for you.
We won another week of Black people shit. That should be good enough.
Wednesday, I show up with a smile. But yes, for the election, I showed up with a pot and a pan in my pajamas on my balcony. It was a historic moment, and I know we're going to get to that, so I'm just going to hush up for right now.
Yeah.
All right. So even though Donald Trump has refused to concede the election, many people believe that it is a foregone conclusion that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have won the 2020 presidential. Okay, slow down. Presidential election. You can see how excited I am. How are you guys feeling as you watch all of this unfold? And what are your thoughts on this historic moment? I'll start. Well, I always start with Janora, so let me go with Abdul.
Well, I'm happy that Trump is out. I believe he was unpresidential. I think he did a lot to harm the image of America. But I didn't vote for him, so I'll say that from the door. So whatever comes next, let everybody know I did not vote for him. I'm not a Trump supporter. But I do think I didn't understand specifically for Black people, because that's my perspective. That's the prism I come from. That's what I normally speak about. I didn't understand, and this is not a shot at you, Janora, but I didn't understand that people jumping and shouting in the streets, because all you're doing is changing a wild dog for a trained dog, but Black people are still the target. So it doesn't matter if one was a wild dog and one's a trained attack dog. It's the same thing for Black people. So in that respect, I just didn't get it. And then some of the narratives, I guess we'll get to that part maybe a little bit later. I didn't like some of the narratives, but I haven't liked some of the narratives that have been pushed for this whole cycle, and even going back a little bit before that. But I don't like some of the narratives that are being pushed with regards to the separation of Black men and Black people, Black women and children, because I look at it as one united front. We're a Black community. We're all in this together in one organization. I don't like the splintering off. Yes.
So let me just clarify for everybody out there, because we had a discussion amongst the three of us, talking about how everybody is pushing that it was the Black woman that helped win this election. And Abdul feels like it was Black people that helped win this election. And that's what you're speaking of, correct, Abdul?
That's what I'm speaking of. And it's like, this is a historical thing that you can look up yourself in every context. You can look it up, that there's never been a time where there's been a Black man, the face of the movement, or even a Black woman, the face of the movement. Like in '64, when Henry Famer gave her speech to the Democratic National Committee, or when Martin Luther King's speech, Malcolm X's speech, any speech you can look at. Even the Black Panther was mostly women, and there was never a time where they said, "I did this for Black men." They said, "I did this for Black people," because the Black collective was what's important. If you lift one Black person up, you lift all Black people up. So I didn't understand. Like, if you go back to look at the Obama presidency, there was never a point where he said, "I did this for Black men," or "Black men, we did this." Like, there was never the narrative. And to add a little insult to injury, and I don't mean this to be like, say this in any crazy way, but if Barack Obama was married to a white woman and said, "We did this for Black men," how do you think Black women would feel?
That's a good point. Janora, do you want to respond?
You know I do. First off, daggone it, can we go 5 minutes and just celebrate what's going on? Celebrate the new administration, celebrate what just happened, celebrate the history surrounding it. I had to write all these things down so I do not forget to respond to a point that you have made. The original question from Chrystee, though, was how did I feel? And I felt amazing. I even talked about the celebration amongst neighbors. I looked at the news and people celebrating, and the people in the crowd looked like America. It looked like the place that I see, that I live, that is the vision of where I want to go. So yay us. And can we have a minute to celebrate that? I'm not saying everything is perfect, but can we have a minute just to celebrate the victory over Orange Dude, even though I know we're going to come to his shenanigans or fake claims that it's not real. Let's celebrate what is real, and that is Biden, Harris, 2020, damn it, yay. And in terms of Harris, I had to write down all of the first, because it's more than just the first Black woman or the first woman. It's the first daughter of immigrants. It's the first Indian, because and again, I'm not trying to get deep into this conversation, because Abdul, I agree with you. We need to be a united front. And I think it only splinters us when we get in these stupid debates on how Black Kamala Harris is. But not only is she Black, but yes, she's also Asian American and Indian American, and those people matter too and see themselves in her. In fact, one of the strongest memes that I saw was that little girl in front of the TV with that shirt on that said, "The VP looks like me." Mm-hmm. That is power. Think about a world where if you grow up and you see the Vice President of the United States as a Black woman, or woman of color, and you know that in the history books there was a Black man that was president, that blows off ceilings and walls that have been set before us previously. So not even getting to policy, but just getting to just the images and the representation that matter and move people. So, whew, let me continue. Oh, wait, I hadn't even gotten to her being an HBCU graduate. That's huge. Props to HBCUs who for years have probably felt in the shadows of other universities that have been predominantly white universities as not being enough. Kamala Harris is showing that it is possible, showing that they are just as dope and thorough and have so many graduates that are now able to run the free world as second in command, be up in the White House. That's amazing. And of course, at the beginning of the show, I announced I'm a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. So for her to even represent Black sororities, whew, I can just end there, Abdul and Chrystee. I know we have more to talk about again. You brought up some other points, but I know I've been talking for a while. But that in itself, before I even get to what you're talking about, Abdul, between Black men and Black women,
So we'll come back. We'll come back to that.
Yes.
We'll come back. I'll make sure that we get that. Yeah, no, I'll make sure that we come back. I mean, for me, and if there's anything you guys want to say out there as well, you know, make sure we'll make sure we put it up there. Hey, Kimberly, thanks for joining. So obviously I was relieved, you know, it just was dragging on. I just feel like I'm so glad that it was over. And I actually did get a little teary-eyed after they gave their speeches for a different reason. I got teary-eyed because what I thought of was watching Joe Biden, especially him, and all the struggles that he's been through to try to get here to this position. Seeing his name up, they had it light up in the sky. And all I kept thinking about was all of the stress that he went through, but he prevailed, that he won this election. And I think about my own life, of all the things that we have to do to try to stay there. Come on, we got to get it. And then the payoff. And I thought that was really something for all of us to remember, because trying to beat Trump is not easy. You know what I mean? Because he's a jackass. Excuse me for saying it, but he's a jackass. The other thing that I have to say is I'm saddened that he's making America look bad. People from around the world have given Joe Biden their, congratulations, but the Republicans have not. I feel like it's a national security risk, what he is doing, not allowing him to be a part of the conversation of what's going on behind the scenes. So those are the other things that I think are concerning and just disappointing. And then, of course, the rest of the world, or the other half of the world who voted for him, who are still stuck on this situation. But I want to make sure that we go back to what you were saying, Janora, about, or answer Abdul's thing, because I really do feel like you make a good point, Abdul. The language is what we haven't really been paying attention to. A lot of people might not get it, might not see it, might not feel it, but it's interesting that you caught the language. So go ahead, Janora.
Language matters. And Abdul will be happy to hear me say that history matters, but I think in this time we have a difference of the way that things happen, or what has taken place in response to lifting up Black men. Y'all had the Million Man March, daggone it. You didn't even bring that up as an example of specific things that we have done as a nation to uplift the Black man. And we did not see not one female of influence.
Hold up. Because that's out of context.
It's not the same.
They had the Million Man March, was technically called the Day of Atonement for Black men to apologize what they have done. And it was part of a program to do the Million Man March first, and then do the Million Women March second, which is what they did. But Farrakhan felt, and I'm not in the Nation of Islam, so I'm not. But Farrakhan felt the need for black men to state that they need to atone for the things that they've done and go back to their community and uplift their community. So that's why it was separate, and black women still went. But it was a day for people to apologize. It wasn't a day for people to cheer themselves on. And in the day, they had women speaking at the convention.
How dare they?
I'm just saying, you were acting like there weren't women there, but continue on.
No, I wasn't saying that there weren't women there. I was saying that from your original statement, it sounded like you were saying that there was no part in history that was specific to lift up the black man. And the Million Man March is what first came to mind. But in terms of who came out as an influencer of color, they were all black men. Name me one black woman besides Candace Owens, that of any influence that came in support of Trump. No, it was only black men that we saw. But at the end of the day, black men showed up and black women showed up.
That's not fair.
How is that not fair?
Because yes, there were several black men who came out to support Trump, but there were several black women who directly worked for Trump. So you're telling me my influence coming out saying one or two things is different than you working for him for years?
When you have an influence to influence thousands of...
Omarosa. I mean, there were women who worked and advocated for his policies.
Absolutely.
So don't say that one or two comment from a celebrity is trumped. Somebody's working for this man's policy for years.
It is trumped when it comes to the number of votes. You cannot tell me Ice Cube is not trumping the number of votes that somebody of color that is female in his administration that we don't even know by name because we're just talking about her generally.
But you and I both know that what goes on behind the scenes has more to do with what goes on than what goes on in public. That's in everything, politics, TV. It's but what goes on behind the door. And these women had influence in what was going on in his administration, and they were getting directly paid from him. These guys weren't.
Yeah, those are some good points, and I'm gonna let you finish, but I do want to make sure that we move on so we don't stay on this for a long time.
Oh no, please! I am ready to move on, but not of course without having the last word with my brother Abdul.
I want you to respond.
For me, it's not who gets paid. It's for me who has the most influence on the people to get the people out to vote. So God, thank you for women like Stacey Abrams, who was able to mobilize folks to come to the polls for the Biden-Harris ticket and not the Trump ticket. So I don't want to compare apples to oranges. I don't want to believe
I don't want to say that. There is something I would like to say. I would like to say what is being overlooked in this whole process with Donald Trump with respect to black men is that a lot of this, I think, was protest votes, and a lot of it had to do directly with the things that Joe Biden and people who worked for Joe Biden did to black men directly. If you have a direct beef with somebody specifically for what they did, and the person next to you doesn't, their image of that person is going to be different than you and I. Or my thing is that black men had a direct problem. He specifically helped put hundreds of thousands of black men in jail. The guy who's going to be his chief of staff. So we talk about the 94 crime bill. Jump to 96, where his guy Klein, who's going to be his chief of staff, who's been his aide for years, took money out of the 94 crime bill that was directed to go to rehabilitation and took it to put black kids in jail to build juvenile detention centers.
All right, are you ready for me to respond? Are you ready for me to respond? Because I know you got a whole laundry list of things.
No, I'm just saying, I'll finish. So if people are so upset with Trump putting kids in cages, which is right to be upset about, why are you not upset about this? How do you not get irate about the fact that he put black men and black children in jail in mass and not understand why black men didn't want them?
I would like to respond if that's okay, Chrystee.
Yes, go ahead.
So Abdul, for you, 1994 crime bill was over 25 years ago, and I'm not making the length of time an excuse for that horrible bill to have passed. But in the last debate, when he was specifically asked about that, he says, I recognize that was a mistake. And him even admitting fault is something that Orange Man has no capacity to even do. And he did that as an Orange Man, locking up folks in cages in 2019 and 2020. So I'm going to give the grace of time, and I'm going to give the grace of him apologizing, and with forward thought, and all these Black people, men and women behind him that mobilized. So now we are at the table. We put him there. You cannot tell me that we will not have a greater vote this time around. And I am not going to hinge their productivity, their power in office for change on the past. I'm going to be hopeful this time around that things will be different, especially that I know that we have mobilized on a grassroots level and that they recognize that we are part of their success.
So why are you behaving like these guys are progressives and they're not corporatists and they don't do things specifically for corporations? They have ties. Both of them have ties to lobbying groups and have ties to special interest groups and have ties to corporations that won't affect the way they move.
Okay.
Why are you acting like patterns don't mean anything, or like history doesn't mean anything?
So here's what I'm gonna say. Here's what I'm gonna say.
Yes, Chrystee.
I understand both perspectives here. I mean, I'm all about the hope, which is what I'm riding on, which is why I voted for Joe Biden. That was the main reason why I'm doing it, because of the future that I'm hoping will change. But I also understand, Abdul, your perspective, which is all of those things that he did in the past. Those brothers are still in jail. Their lives have been changed. Whether they're in jail, whether they're out of jail, their lives are completely changed because of those decisions that they made. Yeah, we can forgive you for all that stuff, but the people who had that experience, or the sons that they lost, or the kids that they lost, or, you know, jail is something else, especially when you don't need to be there or you shouldn't be there. And I understand what you're saying. And this is something that is new to me that you just said, Abdul, which is he's putting a person in leadership 25 years later who back in 94 made us suffer, Black people suffer. So I understand. And there's also not new blood in the house. We still got this old blood. He's still working with old people from back in those time periods where they probably still think the same way. Not in the same way as in, it's kind of like having an agent who's like really older, who do all the major deals, but they're not the young blood that's going out there to hustle to make changes and do things differently. So I get both perspectives, and all we could do at this moment is two things, and I'm going to give a suggestion, which is one, we have to learn more and understand more about politics, and two, we have to keep moving forward and making sure that we hold these people accountable. And that's how we're going to end that one today. All right, moving on to the next one. So even though it looks like the Democrats may have won the presidential elections, the Senate is still up for grabs with a runoff race in Georgia that holds the leadership of Senate to the ballots. Do you have any predictions for what will happen in January when this race has taken place?
So there are two races going off. There is the Reverend, I can't remember his name, and the woman, and there is Ornoff and the other gentleman. Both these guys are Democrats, if I remember their names better than I do.
Warnock, Reverend Warnock.
Warnock, yeah. And there's Ornoff, and the other thing. I think Warnock has a better chance of winning, being that he was up percentage-wise. I think he was the reason I had the runoff is because per Georgia rules that you have to be past 50% in order to take the seat. So that's why both guys, everybody was under 50%. Ornoff in his race against the woman was at 32%, and she was at 26%. And then you had like 26 other candidates that split that vote. So I think he has a better chance. The Ornoff on the other side. I'm not sure. That's the sticky one.
You're talking
But
about, okay, go ahead. Warnock.
Warnock, yeah. But I just think that there's going to be so much push, and there's going to be so much emphasis, so much excitement for this particular race, especially with Stacey Abrams at the helm. I thought she'd have been vice president. I think they have a really, really, really good chance of winning, and it looks optimistic. I'm hopeful, Janora. I'm hopeful.
I'm about to say, like, wait, am I on the same show for Abdul being optimistic? Wait, but that's a good thing, and I'll take it, Abdul, and I hope all of us are optimistic. And I'll even give you a head nod. You said you like to base the future based on predictions of the past. Well, the prediction of the past of what happened is we just turned Georgia, the good old southern state of Georgia, we just turned it blue, y'all. When has that ever happened? So a lot of times people don't vote is because they feel like their vote doesn't count. But this time, damn it, we showed it. And we showed the people who might have been doubters that it really does count. And I think those people especially, so I read the story about Stacey Abrams, and of course we're going to talk about this a little bit later too, but how she just changed and enrolled people and mobilized people to vote. But part of it wasn't just sign this and register. It was, let me educate you on how this whole government system works. So when people realize that, okay, let's just say Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have this awesome plan for Black folks, right? It can only go so far if we don't have the support of the Congress. So this is an opportunity for all these ideas, Abdul, good, bad, indifferent, that they could actually be passed. So I think building off of the momentum that we just left with, yes, I will agree with the optimism, Abdul.
Well, the one thing that I love about both of these two that are running, Asif, which to me reminds me of being on The Handmaid's Tale, the last name. Every time I hear, I'm like, whoa! It just reminds me of the girls that are in there. But he seems like a cool brother. Like, you know what I mean? He's like this. He talked about being this Jewish guy and all the things that he did. He raised $1 million in one day. You know, and one of the things that he was saying as well is that, you know, he has a new way of thinking, and Georgia has a lot of young, new people that are starting to vote, which is why he feels like the 2018 race where he lost and Stacey Abrams lost, he's saying, listen, we have a whole new group of young people that are here that are progressive and think differently. And I think that's why the votes are going to swing their way. The other thing is, of course, Stacey Abrams had over 800,000, new registers, people that were out there voting. So I just have a feeling that things are going to change. And the last thing that I want to make sure I say is that David Asif is running against a guy named David Perdue.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's very interesting about him, and that I loved that they had a discussion about, is that they were saying this guy's playing from the old 70s down south playbook of getting people in fear and the bigotry. And he was saying the new generation is not going for it. And one of the things he did was he made a joke about Kamala Harris's name. Like, what's her name? Like, how do you say her name? Kamala, and it ended up getting a lot of backlash on Twitter, and people were like, hashtag say my name, and then showing them how to pronounce their names right. So I got a feeling they're probably going to get this dude out. He's been in there for, I think, over 6 years, and it's time to let him go. So
yeah, I think that pushback is going to be tough, though. I think that the Republicans are going to put a lot of money, if they haven't already, in that race. I know there's been a lot of people advocating or trying to build the Democratic war chest in Georgia, trying to get them more money for ads and things of that nature. So, you know, I think they got it, but I think it's gonna be a tight race, man. And I think this is for all the marbles, because, like Janora said earlier, if they don't win the Senate, they don't, whatever the administration wants to do is not really going to get passed. The one thing I was really thought was interesting is the prediction that the House were going to win, that they thought that they were going to win like 20 seats and they lost like 10. So the House is closer than it was before. So I'm just like, what does that say about where we're at in terms of collectively? Like, if you look down the exit poll numbers, like, and we can get into the weeds of this, but like 55% of white women voted for Trump. 60, is it like 40 some odd percent of Latin men voted for Trump. 33% of Asians voted for Trump. Even, I know they want to push down the number because I heard Eva Longoria talking about that nonsense she had to say on TV the other day, but even for almost 40% of Latin women voted for Trump.
Wow.
So, I mean, what does that say about the space that we're in?
Well, I just feel like things are changing and they have a reason for whatever their reasons are. And I'm okay with people voting, for Republicans. I just don't understand why you're voting for Trump, especially when I feel like he's not for anybody. Go ahead, Janora.
Except himself and his family.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with you there, Chrystee. And I think what it reveals, Abdul, is what we talked about before, and it just being a very divided space that we are in. But I want to shout out folks that are here riding, especially my brother in positivity, Eric J. Smith. Thank you for those comments. So although we are divided, and although who knows what will happen, I feel like the best way to predict the future is to create it. So just being a part of helping to, and this is what I've had to work on, because I know we're divided. When there is a Trump supporter in the vicinity, I'm not gonna, you lost. Yeah. Right. Like, let's work on building back better. If I could just use that tagline. And then also shout out and hello to new folks that have joined us, or if you've been here for a while but hadn't had a shout out, including Tangerine, Yolanda, Armando, and Kimberly.
Yeah, do you know Armando?
I do know Armando.
Okay, Armando.
Dancer.
He said, yeah, he's like, look, it ain't over. And okay, and then of course it was like yes, it is.
Can we address any of these comments?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find right here. I want to make sure. Did you see any that you?
Yeah, Eric Smith. So there's, I know there's a narrative probably that I'm like the negative one about this whole situation, and it's not that far off with regards to how I feel about these particular people. But I don't want to get the idea that I am negative, because I'm optimistic about Black people in the space that we're in and our awakening and the things that we're doing to benefit ourselves collectively, whether it be Killer Mike opening up a Black bank, whether it be California pushing the first reparations or the second reparations bill. So I am optimistic about that. But this idea that people can change from the past, holding grudges isn't how you move on. And I say, let's stop being negative and wait and see. You can say to somebody who hasn't done something to you, if I cracked you in the head with a bat and left you in a coma, and then the next time you saw me, would you have that same feeling about me as, oh, people can change, or would you be weary about my behavior?
That's a good point.
I might be weary about your behavior, but I'm not going to say you can't come around me no more. Like, especially when what's at stake is so much. No, we're not talking about just me and you. We're talking about a whole, not even country, but world. So too much is at stake to be like, oh, this is just going to be like it was before. No,
but there are millions of Black people and Latino people, whoever else, that are in jail. Millions.
we're not even just talking about the justice system and the prison system. We're talking about the climate. We're talking about education. We're talking about housing. We're talking about employment. There's so many other things that this new administration is coming in with that we should be. If you enter into a relationship and already before you even enter into it, you're like, nah, it ain't gonna work. What do you think is gonna happen? No.
Yeah. But you're also looking at the past history of people. So for instance, like the whole prison system, I don't know if you, there's a place in Atlanta that is right next to, it's projects. And of course, they based off of prisons right next to, they base prisons off of the test scores of kids in the 3rd and 4th grade.
Yeah.
So they literally built a prison. And when I say it is right here to where this is right here, that's how close the this particular housing projects is to the prison. They literally, I just felt like they're taking them from here to here.
And how wonderful it is that we have Biden and Harris to put some new energy into what's going on now to make some change.
What are you basing that on?
Okay, how about this?
Okay.
And I'm going to base this off on a very recent incident in my own life. And that is y'all, I was on the phone for 3 hours trying to just talk about coming together, all these things, right? And at the end of the conversation, I don't think anything moved. So you know what? I will give it a try. And you have a choice. And at the end of the conversation, I have done my job if I have come from love and the truth that's in my heart. And either y'all on this train or you're not. I'm moving forward. And if you're not moving with me, get out my way so I can be part of a change that Stacey Abrams and all these Black women have mobilized. And we are moving, daggone it. We are moving. So if y'all don't want to be on my train, you ain't got to be. But I am moving forward with positivity and love and hope for change. Because again, I know I just said this, but the best way to predict the future is to create it. Because if we are reliant on what happened in the past and I need somebody to atone, we're going to be in this space for a long damn time.
But here's the difference. Here's the difference of where you are and where Abdul is and where I am. Like, from my perspective, I feel like you're all in this love and let's move forward. I have a little bit of you and I have a little bit of Abdul because I feel like what it reminds me of is like in the church when the pastor does wrong, you know, everybody's always in this forgiveness. Oh, I forgive you. And they forgive. And then what does he do? He keeps doing the same shit. I can say shit because my show is called shit. Doing the same thing, but we keep forgiving the same, the same situation of the same people. My thing is, I have hope. I am moving with you, Biden and Harris. I am moving with you. But I'm also now, for the first time, going to challenge you to do better. And I'm aware now, because I've been around Abdul for so long, because he's always dropping this knowledge, I'm aware of all the things that have happened in the past. And I want to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And I'm going to challenge you and make sure you don't get back in if you're not, holding up your end of the bargain and making sure that we are being looked at and looked after. Go ahead.
So what I said to you on the phone, I will say to you publicly. And I said the only difference between the space that you're in and that I'm in is that you go from there to love and you skip completely over justice. And I don't think there can be any love without justice. So if you want me to love you, show me justice. Show me by your deeds. So yes, they won the election. They have the possibilities to do right by us by justice. But you can't take a person's past history and not hold their resume to hold it up against them. It's their resume. It's literally their resume. It's like we went through 2 whole seasons of us canceling R. Kelly and Bill Cosby for the horrible things that they did, to the point where we can't listen to their music anymore and won't watch their shows anymore. But then we give these people a complete, we just wipe their sins away. And I don't understand why we have more while we do that to ourselves. We hold us to different standards than we have to these politicians and these white people who hold money over us and hold what have you over us. I'm just saying that if it's okay to do this to the segment of our society who have done wrong and give them the opportunity, because I'm for redemption and I believe people have the ability to redeem themselves, but you have to show me, your actions have to show me. And telling me that, calling me a predator in 94 and then telling me if I don't vote for you, I'm black in 2020 is not showing me anything.
Well, there's a good point. Let's go ahead. I know it's you want to say something, Janora?
Yeah, I mean, how does that move us forward though, Abdul? And I get what you're saying. I am not dismissing people's records, and you're right. That was a really good point I've never thought about, how we're able to forgive certain people and not forgive others. But what's the alternative? Like
there is a pastor from Kentucky, and I love this quote. His name is Pastor Kevin Cosby, and he says, and I hope I don't get it incorrect, but he says, politicians don't change because they see the light. Politicians change because they feel the heat. And I think we need to put the heat behind these politicians and make them change. So yes, the reason I keep bringing it up is to constantly remind you, yeah, you did this stuff and you need to change. Saying that I don't, it's in the past and I forget about it doesn't help me with my agenda. My agenda is to get progress for Black people. And if I can't bring up your history and your resume to show you that you've done some stuff and you need to correct that, if I'm just going to wipe that away, I have no ammunition to challenge you. And I got to be able to challenge you.
And I just want to say this, Janora, before you add that, I think we do that with everyone. Teachers do that to kids. Parents do that to their kids. We do that to our spouses, holding everybody accountable. And I feel like that's what you're saying. Abdul is saying is that we're going to be holding you accountable. What were you going to say, Janora?
No, just because I'm being hopeful and positive doesn't mean I'm giving them a pass and erasing or forgetting what they have done. Mm-hmm. I'm absolutely, Chrystee, you hit it right. That nail right on the head. And that
head on the nail. Okay, go ahead.
Head right on the
Hit the nail on the head. Hit the nail on the head.
Whatever analogy or metaphor I am trying to use, you used it. And you as well, Abdul, as in let's hold them accountable. Let's bring the heat. But it doesn't have to be an either or. It doesn't have to be, well, you did this in 94 and I'm not going to forget. Or, you know what, I'm going to believe in a better day. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. How can we bridge that gap? How can we have hope and still hold them to the fire of either their past or not even their past. Let's move forward. Not erasing, but based on some of these things, I'm rolling this into what I want you to do as we move forward together. So I don't think it's an either or. I think we're a team, and I hope y'all on my train because I'm going forward.
I understand that, but you can't say there's not a hopeful more person than Martin Luther King was. He was hopeful for the future. He was hopeful for society. He was hopeful for integrations. But tell me a time when he didn't bring up the stuff that happened to Black people to their faces. He said it at every turn. Show me a speech where he didn't bring it up every single time.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Abdul. I'm saying yes, absolutely. Let's bring this to the table because we have a seat at the table because we put y'all in office. Mm-hmm. Yes,
we always put them in office.
Black people always put most of the Democrats
put politicians in office.
And I think it's a new day. It's a new chapter. It's a new space. The realm of social media wasn't around the last time we got a Democrat in office, which was Obama. It's a completely different world technologically and the way that we think and act as a collective people. So let's give it a chance. Yes, let's say what you're saying, but yes, let's move on forward. Okay, so not stuck.
All right, so Abdul, I'm gonna let you say the last thing that you want to say, but I do want to say that Kathy, thank you.
Hey, Kathy.
You basically are saying what both of us, all three of us are saying. We're just all kind of saying it differently, but we the people have to stay involved and hold all these politicians to the fire. We are all saying the same thing, all three of us.
So what I mentioned to you, So what I mentioned to you on the phone earlier, and then I'll let you rebut, and you can have the last word on this, is that there's this idea, there's this philosophy called predictive politics, where you can look at the way things happen. So you can look at the downturn of an economy and see how it affects other aspects of society, right? So when the Great Depression happened, you can saw that this would happen, and this happened, and this happened. That's why when in 2008, when Obama came in, there was this predictive idea when Bernanke came in and said, if you don't do this to our society, if you don't fund the banks, these things will happen based off what happened in the Great Depression in the 20s. So now we're going into a situation, Biden's going into a situation the same as Obama went into a situation, whereas that there was a banking crisis in 2008. Today, there's an economic crisis and unemployment. He had challenges with housing. We have a housing crisis right now that's worse than ever because a lot of people are going to get kicked out of their homes, what have you, because they didn't pay rent. We have a pandemic that tops all of this stuff. And Obama used a lot of his clout in his first administration, his first 4 years, to push through Affordable Care Act, which is the same fight that Biden's going to right now. So that took up the fourth 4 years, and then the second couple 4 years the Republicans came in, and in that process, Black people specifically got caught up in the mix, and we lost a lot. We lost a lot, and circumstances and mismanagement and a lot of things happened, but we lost our shirts under that administration. So I'm saying is that just to close it out, and you can have your last statement. So I'm saying is that these patterns that are happening, and it's happening with the Biden pattern, we have to put the heat on them so much more than we did last time, and keep putting what they did in their face so that we can get the results that we're looking for. Because if not, it'll be 2008 all over again, and it didn't help us at all.
So basically, one of the things, if you guys are not understanding what he's saying, which I think it was pretty clear, but it made sense, which is, with Biden, he's going to have to deal with so many other things that are happening. The coronavirus, the people losing their houses, they have no jobs, all these things, the healthcare, all those things are going to become top priority, which means that all this stuff that is happening with, Black people getting killed by the police and all that kind of stuff might fall down to the wayside, to where we're not going to be a priority because we also did not, push a lot of that. So that it's I'm curious to see if that's really going to happen, and will Black people in general, or people, be down on the list. Go ahead, Janora, and then we're gonna
absolutely. And I'm excited to add on a whole nother layer of this conversation, because I think I have said all I'm going to say in terms of where I fit. But before I end with this conversation with that unique idea, I just want to give a shout out to my daddy. He has been blowing my phone up with his comments. He don't know how to put them on Facebook yet.
So read them. You gotta read them.
You gotta read them.
You gotta read them.
Oh boy. Well,
you gotta read them.
Well, you know what? Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? And I'm so blessed to have to come from two parents that are graduates of HBCUs, North Carolina Central University, in the house. And my dad answer solution, next step: 2 people cannot defeat 50 million. What will you do? And what do you want done? Deeds, acts, behaviors, and it goes on more.
Okay, Daddy.
But the point is, just want to shout out my dad. And
thank you, Dad. He can call me if he wants any answers to these things. You can give him my number. I have a lot of answers.
Oh,
we got to teach him.
You're not ready for Mr. McDuffie.
I know, but we need to have him on the show. We got to teach him how to use, FaceTime and Zoom and.
Boy. All right. Well, what I wanted to say in terms of this whole conversation, in terms of, all right, we're going to make sure that our voices are heard, our needs are heard. We got you there. This is what you did, blah, blah, blah. With Stacey Abrams, I'm going back to Sister Girl, and all those other women that whose names and people, right? Men, women, and collectively who worked as volunteers to get people registered to vote, educated voters. We showed the power of that mobilization, that power of the grassroots movement, the power of collective, a collective goal, and we met it and we made it. What I want to share is that, yes, we got Biden Harris in. And yes, January 5th, we're going to show up again. We're going to call everybody we know in the state of Georgia to make sure they show up and make sure they vote so that we can have the congressional thumbs up to move some of these policies forward. What I'm trying to get to is, even when that happens, I'm claiming it, right? Even when that happens, it's going to take some time maybe for somebody's day-to-day to change. And it's not going to cure all your problems. So maybe showing this mobilization of community and collective effort, that's also where change starts. So yes, all of the things that we are doing, yes, all of the things we're going to hold them to, but don't forget the power of the people on the ground. And I think that with the mobilization efforts, again, to get that vote, to get some of these states to turn blue, we've got that, we've shown that. So let's use that as well, in addition to making this world a better place.
But it always makes it seem like, Janora, that you think that Abdul or myself, I'm not, or the world, don't feel that way. Like they're not about the people.
No, not at all.
That we are about the people. We just, for an extra of like.
Oh no! What my point was that people are relying on the government to solve all their problems. I'm saying no. I'm saying we just show that we can make some difference by coming together. Let's use that in addition to whatever the government does to make the world better. That was that point.
Gotcha.
I absolutely. Y'all can be on my train. We're all on the same.
We all on the same. We
Yes,
on the same train. I'm on the same train for real.
Yeah. So that was just a different thought, just in terms of us putting so much on this election. Yes, and I'm so happy again. We have a new administration, like it or not, Orange Man, that is coming through. I'm just also recognizing the power that we have individually and as a community, instead of always relying on, okay, it's going to be better. Right. You know, whether it's better or not, what are we doing? And just proving that.
Abdul looks like he got Abdul's little head, and you can just tell his little brain is just going. I can't even move on to the BPS of the week. Go ahead,
you can move on. But my point is, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I do believe in the power of the people. But I can also remember Occupy Wall Street. I can also remember all the protests that happened during the financial crisis. The one thing I will have to say is that feelings didn't shut down Reconstruction. Legislation did. So when Black people were doing well after slavery during Reconstructions, they still hated Black people. They still didn't like us when we were doing well. And they were upset about that. And they robbed and murdered us. And what happened after that was legislation. So yes, I'm for you on the love train. I'm for positivity and us getting together collectively to move this country forward. But if you don't have the right people creating the right legislation, it ain't gonna cut it, because it hasn't cut it in the past. And there's history documented to prove it.
And if we only relied on the past as this is what it's gonna be, then we would never have moved forward to where we are now. Yes, they have burned our centers of business and wealth as Black folks, but we have come back, and it's not because of history, but it's because those people who believed that there could be something better. So yes, Abdul, history, I get your context. I get that there's been a lot of fucked up shit that has happened to Black people and legally done, right? The laws, there have been laws that have said where we can't own, where we can't live, what loans we can't get. But it's through not the legislation, but the people that believed and still persisted anyway that were able to get in. In fact, last thing, and again, shout out to my daddy, because he told me this story, right? Mm-hmm. It's about the Trojan horse. Y'all ever heard about the Trojan horse? Mm-hmm. I'm okay. I knew, Abdul, you were going to say yes. Well, I'll quickly tell the story. And the story is how the Greeks won the war against the Trojans. And that is, they built this Trojan horse, right? This big wooden horse as a sign of like their, I don't know, is like their mascot or something. But the key was that they hid some of their army members inside of it. And they acted like, pardon?
It was the Trojans gave the Greeks a gift because they were in battle. The Trojans decided that they were going to pretend like they were going to quit and left them a gift as an offering, which was a Trojan horse, and then they hid inside horse.
Well, but I read it a little differently, but either way, the point is the same, that there was this wooden horse. They got inside. They acted like they left. The Trojans took it inside of their whatever village, whatever it was. But the point was that because they were inside and because they thought they had left, the Greeks had left, the one or two that were left inside of this wooden horse got out at night, opened the gates where they had come back and infiltrated and won. I don't know if I told that story well or not, but the whole point was that they won because they were on the inside. They won that war because they were able to infiltrate the inside. So finally, we have some people again in history inside, but that again is where change can take place. It's hard for me to be like, all right, I'm a change Delta Sigma Theta, but not being a member. But now that I'm a member and I'm inside, there's more of a chance. So I'm just using that as an analogy that my daddy gave me. This is just shout out to my daddy.
Shout out to your daddy. I agree with that analogy. The only slight difference is that Black people are the community and Kamala's the Trojan horse.
She's in the inside, is basically what he's saying.
You're saying Kamala's in the horse and she got out and she opened up the gates for the Black folks to come in.
No, she opened up the gate for the white people to disrupt all the stuff that Black people are doing.
Oh my God.
You are destroying that story.
I'm done with you. I'm done with you. I am done with you. The only thing I do want to add though, Janora, because I do understand what you're saying, but I am also tired of all of the starting over, fighting, getting in there, being all excited, and then having the shit being tore back down again. Like that right there, I'm tired of it. Now, but on the positive note, I mean, I am excited about this change. And what I'm more excited about is I am more involved in learning more about what this government is and what it does. And I'm looking forward to making the change for the rest of my life and being involved. So that's how I feel. So we're going to move on to our BPS of the week. Gubernatorial, right? I want to make sure I'm saying it right.
Yep.
All right, y'all. So our BPS person of the week, and I'm sure Abdul, you're gonna do, yeah, awesome. After narrowly losing to the 2018 gubernatorial election in Georgia, which many people believe was stolen from her, Stacey Abrams never stopped fighting for the people. So she turned her attention towards voter suppression and founded the Fair Fight Action, which is an organization that aims to make elections in Georgia and the rest of the U.S. more fair by advocating for changes in voter registration laws that will increase the number of eligible voters. And with that focus, Abrams was a critical part of the 2020 Biden-Harris win, having registered an estimated 800,000 new voters in Georgia and influenced voter turnout in 20 other crucial states, such as Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. Because of her work, Stacey Abrams may have single-handedly turned the typically red state of Georgia blue and given the Democrats the presidency. So, for your moral integrity, perseverance, strong will, and never give up attitude, Stacey Abrams, you are our BPS person of the week. I'm not sure why he's got, because she won. I'm Chrystee Pharris, and that was this week in Black People Shit. Any ending comments you guys want to say?
Keep the pressure on them. We're pivoting what could possibly be in the right direction collectively for Black people. We need to just keep the fire on them, keep pushing. Don't stop pushing them regardless of what they tell you, because they're never going to give you a yes unless you make them. So,
Janora?
Yeah, keep the fire and keep the face.
Well, that was quick. I didn't even get a chance to take a sip. A shout out to Monica Banks, who's out there watching. Just want to say thank you, East Coast in the house. And I have hope. I come with love. And but I am going to make sure we keep that fire. And by any means necessary, we're going to make sure some changes happen, because what my parents went through and my grandparents and myself, I don't want the next generation to go through what we went through. So, and that's for any kid. All right, y'all. Thanks again. Next week, we're going to have the next 2 weeks, we have somebody that's going to come on and show us about working out and how to stay fit and lose that corona
that
weight that we got, that quarantine weight. And then also we have Denise Boutte that's going to come on and talk about food and, you know, traditional food that we do as Black people in our community. So that is about it. I'm going to say goodnight. Who's our next guest again, Janora, for next week?
Mia.
Yeah, great. Mia. I knew that. I don't
Mia
know why.
Smith.
There we go. I didn't know Mia's last name.
I'm not sure if she changed her last name to married last name, but Mia Smith is her maiden name for sure.
Okay.
And her business is Lift and Power. Something fantastic. And so tune in next week. I want to make sure I give a shout out though.
Perfect.
Correct.
All right, you guys, it has been an hour, so we are going to sign off. We will see. I might have met Mia through you, Tangerine. So, all right, you guys, have a good night.
Again, I only want to make sure I say it correctly. Lift and Flow Performance. She is the owner of Lift and Flow Performance. So nice. Love that way. And again, love to everybody who showed up again and who consistently shows up. And that's you especially, Yolanda.
Oh, Yolanda, thank you so much. All right, you guys, we will see you, because I definitely need to lose some of this quarantine weight. So we'll holler at you later.
Bye, everybody.